I'm starting to notice how little faith I have and how much cynicism is present within me. Of course, I've gone to church for many years. I'm familiar with the Bible verses that talk about God providing as God provides for the lilies of the field, full of splendor. And if God provides for the lilies of the field, which bloom and then wilt, how much more will God provide for you? Later, when I started to become disillusioned with the church, started to see the narcissistic tendencies in the church where people would come specifically to prey on vulnerable individuals and use the church to gain status and to gain a source of narcissistic supply. As I realized this, I started to distance myself from the church. I really started to focus on developing my own life, developing my degree, my career. I noticed the expansive desires I had within myself that expanded beyond what I was able to achieve. I started to listening to Abraham Hicks, who talks a lot in the same vein. And that, for me, that was about deconditioning myself from thinking that I needed to be stressed and upset, as if being stressed and upset and anxious and worrying all the time would somehow prove my worthiness. If I suffer enough, God will listen. And God will give me what I want. This was natural for me growing up in the household where I did, where if you had too much joy, you were too happy, then you were a target for someone who would try and take something from you, or they couldn't stand to see you relaxed and happy while they were struggling and upset and worried and stressed. You could never truly be happy or relaxed because it made you look like a bad person when other people are stressed and upset. So if you were unhappy, it made you so you were less of a target for other people. And maybe the squeaky wheel got the grease in that situation. But with God, it's a different story. You keep praying, God, why won't you answer my prayers? I really need you to answer my prayers and give me what I need. Look how much I'm suffering. And maybe some people would describe this as, well, you're telling God that you're suffering. God is reading your vibration as suffering. So there you go, you get more of it. God amplifies whatever you're already giving. And that's why they say, act as if you already have what you want. Oh, you want a peaceful, happy life? Find things to feel peaceful and happy about and be peaceful and happy, because then you'll get more of that. Why do people's prayers work for some people and not for others? Well, some people, they're able to have that faith. If they can have the faith, God is going to deliver, they can relax because it's done. But if you can't have the faith, you're constantly stressed about it. If you don't believe, you're going to constantly keep asking and asking and asking. But where's the source of our lack of belief? Well, it's scary to believe. Because if you have faith that you could have something better, it can shock you out of the reality that you're living. Maybe you've been accustomed to, maybe you've gotten used to it. For some people, if they truly acknowledge their desires, the contrast with their desires and their current reality can be so shocking to this system that they don't even want to be here anymore. The body conditions itself to survive whatever circumstance it's in. And that may include numbing the pain. And being separated from your desires is a form of numbing that pain. Fear of death is so terrifying. but it's really rooted in a separation from God. But we're still human. We're still going to experience that fear of death, because that's really what it takes to embody a physical body versus just being spirit or soul not attached to the physical plane. Because we forget that there's more to the physical plane. Like, because we're immersed in it, we think, oh, the physical plane, that's all there is. But God is not physical. We've got the stuff that God has, whether you want to call it Holy Spirit, or if you call God Source or the universe, that we are a part of that source, or at least our soul is. And there's different ideas that describe the physical plane, whether you want to describe it as a prison planet, or a school, or the false matrix. And if none of those explanations feel good to you, you don't have to believe in any of them. Believing in them isn't necessarily going to take you closer to God. It doesn't make you right or wrong. What you're experiencing on a moment-to-moment basis can take you closer or further away from God or from your true nature, which we can all acknowledge that there is a version of us that we could call our higher selves, that has full and complete knowledge and awareness. And the more we step into that awareness, the more we're essentially getting closer to God, or closer to who we truly are. And what do we know about God? God is love. God is infinite. God isn't worried about paying the bills or relationships. A lot of that is around the story of our lives. Underneath the story, there is the pattern in your body that is trying to protect you from anything that hurt you in the past that might happen again. There are your desires for what you truly want in life. And oftentimes, these two conflict. And sometimes the pain that you feel when confronted up against this survival mechanism and these patterns, it can be so intense that it causes you to back off your desires. Because sometimes your desires will bring these to the forefront, because these are things you have to let go in order to realize your desires. But your power lies in those desires, and especially your faith that those desires are even possible. And how oftentimes do we limit ourselves by just taking away the belief that our desires are possible? Oh, is it bad to desire big things? Oh, are you not a good person? Are you scared of people judging you for those desires? Is your expansion into new desires going to trigger people around you who are too scared to feel into their desires because they've numbed themselves so much? Maybe your desires will bring up past trauma, and your reluctance to feel into your desires brings up this protective mechanism that protected you from when you were hurt. And maybe that hurt wasn't fully processed. Maybe your body numbed itself out and the memory is stored in the body, and it needs to be felt through and processed and released in order to move on to your desires. Maybe holding on to pain for several years has amplified that desire. And if we start with the faith of a mustard seed, it can grow into a huge tree that provides a lot of shade. Maybe we didn't have very much faith and we didn't even realize it. We didn't even realize the way in which our actions contradicted our belief that we did have faith. And maybe the people around us didn't have very much faith either. There was no one else to point out or highlight the fact that we were lacking in faith. But maybe your awareness has grown like mine has, and I'm seeing where I was lacking. And I'm getting this reminder of things that I knew about, but I didn't truly believe. We get caught up in the day-to-day and we forget. And we need someone to remind us or activate us so that we can continue to grow. And remember, just being exposed to it once often isn't enough. We often need to be exposed to it multiple times for different people and different situations. And then finally, we got it. I remember when my piano teacher, his response to me after we had a seminar from a guest pianist, and I was like, oh, they said this, and this was so good and helpful. And my piano teacher looked at me and he said, I've been telling you that for a long time now. But it never sunk in, and that's okay. Even if you've heard this before and you're like, oh, I forgot about it. Why did I forget about it? It's okay, because there's always an opportunity to keep moving forward with your faith right now.